Hello everyone, and welcome to This Nintendo Life. My name is NBZ, and this is episode 49. That's one away from 50. A coveted number, a special number, a number which we didn't really think could happen this soon, and now we're getting scared, Bally. We're getting scared.
100 weeks! 100 weeks of podcasting is what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's slightly ridiculous. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, don't you think? Feels like it just happened.
time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly.
So, when we've been playing so many great games, particularly recently, that
Yes.
it just kind of shoots by.
It does indeed. Well, anyway, let's introduce you. You're Bally. Hi, Bally.
I am.
How are you?
Hi, MBZ. I'm Bally.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Good to join me here on this episode. So we've been playing some video games. We're doing some stuff. Bally, how about you tell the people at home what we're going to be talking about today?
As usual, we have what we've been playing. We've got a few of your emails, which is very nice. You sent in lots. And then in our final segment, we're going to do a bit of a news roundup. There's new presidents, delayed games, games announced. So, we thought, let's cover it.
Yeah, news is something that we don't have a huge focus on this show, although we cover the relevant stuff when necessary, and I think there's been a lot of stuff happening in recent last few weeks that is relevant to Nintendo. So, yep, we'll talk about it, give you our thoughts, all that good stuff. But first, I guess we're going to kick things off with the games that we have been playing. I think there is one game, which is the game of the moment, Bally. Both of us have played a lot of this. So, what is it?
We have played so much of it. First, I just want to say I have been continuing with Ocarina of Time. I'm almost at the end of that game. I've also been playing a little bit of Rayman, and obviously Shovel Knight. Plague of Shadows has just come out, which I'm also keen to move on to. But the game that we've been playing, is just shot right to the top of everything in our minds at the moment, and that is Super Mario Maker. Our expectations, I don't know if mine maybe more so than yours, I don't know, but we weren't particularly hyped about this game when it got announced.
No, when it was E3 last year and they announced this thing, I thought, alright, I mean, that seems cool. It seems like a neat idea. I don't know how they're going to execute on it, but it seems like it's okay. And it really wasn't until the Nintendo World Championships at E3 this year that I gave a shit. Because I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to really make Mario levels. Who wants to do that? Whatever. And I'm not a big fan of 2D Mario, neither are you. So, playing these levels, we both thought, probably not a thing that we're going to be down for. But the showcase that they made at the Nintendo World Championship was so good that it not only convinced me that Mario Maker was a viable product for me personally, but it shot right to the top of my list of most anticipated things this year. Those guys in Nintendo Treehouse who made those levels are talented dudes, because that stuff was so impressive.
And, my expectations grew and grew almost in line with yours. And you're right, after the Nintendo World Championships, we were both just like, wow, we really need this game. Nintendo, your marketing has paid off with that event, because it has worked on us, and we need this game. So I've only made one stage, but the great thing about this game is that I made a stage, I shared it online, and then you're like, Bally, your stage is terrible. I can't get past this one bit. It's horrible. You need to change it. I was like, all right, I'll change it. And I must have changed it 3 or 4 times maybe. And then in the end, I'm actually really happy with the stage that came out. And that's the great thing about Mario Maker, is that, you start with one stage, others can try, and you become game testers. You can game test your own stage, but on top of that, you're game testing your friends' stages, and you can teach each other, oh yeah, this is what worked really nicely about that stage, this is what didn't work as nicely, and then people can go back and fix that, and you can self-train yourself a little bit of game design, which is really cool.
It's amazing, really is. I mean, I feel like if you're just in this kind of environment where there's no online and there's no way for you to share these levels easily and just kind of playing them on your own, sure, you can make something interesting, but probably it's not going to end up that great, because you don't have anyone else kind of criticizing you and giving you feedback and telling you what works and what doesn't. So yeah, the nature of sharing this stuff is fantastic.
But what's so good about this game, and where I believe it stands head and shoulders above another creative game such as Little Big Planet, is that Little Big Planet suffered from an issue where it's the 99 versus the 1%. Now, Patrick Klepek talked about this on his podcast, Match 3, and it's the idea that there's 100 out of the 100% of people who played Little Big Planet, all the creative stages would be made by 1%.
Yes.
And 99% of people would just play those stages. And I feel like Nintendo went into developing this game with the number one task of rebalancing that number. And I really do, I don't know the statistics on this, but I am convinced that they have broken down that problem of 99 versus 1%, because
I think it's the complete opposite in this case. Like, I don't
Exactly.
think there's anyone who buys Mario Maker who doesn't at least make one level, you know?
Precisely, and it's partly because the game handholds you in making a level. It says, here's level 1-1 from the original Mario Bros. Play to the end. You're playing along, and all of a sudden there's a jump that you can't make, but you have to jump and die, and it says, right, insert a block here to make yourself able to complete the course. And it's forcing you to say, get creative, think of ideas. And they throw courses at you. They say, here are the courses we made. Go check out other people's courses online. Here's the mode on how you can make your own courses. It's really that easy. And it's just really quite handholdy in game design. And I'm sure we'll get onto this, but the idea where they're giving you a gradual number of blocks and enemies to utilize, like it's one after the other. They don't throw it all at you at once. In the sense of like hand holding you in creating stages, it kind of works quite well to some degree for that. And it's really encouraging someone who might not know anything about game design. I don't know anything about game design, but I could take those first few blocks and come up with something innovative, give it a go, have a punt, see what you could create and upload it online. And it's just really encourages you to go ahead and do that. And that's where, like I said, it just stands head and shoulders above other creative games, because it's really, really easy to do, and it's like it doesn't take much skill to create something that's actually quite fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the problem, as you said before, stuff like Little Big Planet is it has like a huge variety of tools and things at your disposal, but it's the similar idea of like, oh, I want to play or I want to make a Mario ROM hack, but in order to do that, I need to know how to do all of this complicated shit on a PC. And someone like you, Bally, for example, never fucking gonna do that, right? That's never gonna happen.
No,
I've seen
never.
people online be like, oh, Mario Maker's lame, just ROM hacks exist, and, you can just get this for free. But there's the problem in that the layman can't access that stuff in terms of the creation. Sure, you can go and download ROMs and start playing the crazy contraptions, but most of the time, those are a very certain type of Mario level, like Kaizo, like extremely stupidly hard, where you have to get precision on every single element of it. And Mario Maker allows you not only to have kind of fairer, more balanced stages, but also gives you the tools to create them yourself without having, the barrier to entry. And so stuff like that, stuff like Little Big Planet, there is this huge wall in front of people, and there's no tools for them to climb over. Whereas Mario Maker's like, here's just like a rope, and here's like a thing that we're going to put on you. We're going to lift you right to the top and get over, and no problems whatsoever. So yes, it's a great way of getting people in.
And we've already sunk hours upon hours. I'd even argue mainly in the making of the stages. I've probably played about 11 hours, of which perhaps most of that was spent fiddling with my one stage, and it's just so much fun to just fiddle about with.
So let's talk about a little bit of the unlocking process then, because Nintendo beforehand caught a lot of heat for their thing where they're like 9 days of unlocking, and you had to play 5 minutes every day to unlock a new set of tools. Now, big critique from me of this is, number one, the amount of stuff that they give you is weird in that sometimes they'll give you 3 things, sometimes they'll give you half a row, sometimes they'll give you like this extra added bonus thing, and essential items and essential features like having the trail that Mario shows after you do a jump so that you can judge where to put a block or something isn't unlocked until like the 4th or 5th unlock, which if they had stuck with their original plan to do the 9-day thing would have been fucking infuriating, and why I would have gone in and changed everything. However, they changed their minds and they made it so that you can unlock things much quicker. You kind of have to spam blocks around the place, and I have basically unlocked everything at this point. I did it in the first day and a half, and it didn't take long at all. But Bally, I don't still think you've unlocked everything yet, have you?
No, I've not unlocked everything. And this sounds really bad, but I'm super happy with when I was making the stage I was making. I was super happy with just the blocks I had, and it was kind of like because everything. For those who don't know, my level was based entirely around springs and Koopa shells and breaking through blocks, and sort of Koopa shells, the breakable blocks and springs are included in that very first row. So I was almost in a position where I was like, well, I don't really need the other rows yet. But obviously now that I've made that stage, it's done. I'm happy with it. I'd like to move on and try other stuff. And I now do have more rows to try out. So I'm kind of enjoying Nintendo holding my hand in a very slow manner. But I completely agree with what you said earlier about the tale of Mario. So when Mario, like the ghosting of
Yes.
when you can. So this is quite hard to
You
explain.
can see
but
the arc
when
of his jump, basically,
you can
when you
see
get to
the
the pause
arc
menu.
of his jump. It is ridiculous that that is not there from the start. The idea that that is an element to unlock is just dumb because
Yeah, it
this
should
is
just be there. It's a crucial part of making a level.
precisely, regardless of the level you're making, it will always have some sort of platforming element to some degree. This is a platforming game. Like having the arc of the jump is what you need to make jumps, and it's just really dumb that that's not included.
Yeah,
Uh,
additionally, subworlds you don't get until the very end, which infuriated me because there were so many levels that I wanted to make, and I couldn't because there was no way for me to use pipes, and that was just like, man, I just need to spam blocks and get this sorted so that I can make the level that I want to make, because I think it's World 1, 2 of the original Super Mario Brothers includes a subworld. So
yeah.
that is something that should have been there much earlier, if not straight from the beginning.
It's a bit weird. But to be honest, there's so few gripes that I have. I don't know if you agree, MBZ, but there's so few gripes that I have with the game.
In
It's
terms of the creation process, because there are a lot of gripes I have with the searching process. We'll get onto that afterwards, the sharing process. But in terms of the creation process, I think that it is well refined. They do a good job of teaching you what to do. And there's a lot of kind of experimentation that goes on. It's like, okay, can I give this Lakitu this item to throw? Can I put this in a bullet bill to make it shoot? Can I shake this to change its properties? So they don't completely spell everything out for you. They leave a little bit to your own experimentation to try and figure for yourself. But yeah, generally, it's easy, intuitive, and the gamepad is completely justified in my mind through this game. Now,
yeah.
obviously, you could say that about this if it was on the 3DS and be like, okay,
It,
yeah, I mean, the 3DS has had touchscreen for years and it makes good use of that. But this is a nice big screen, and it has all the buttons you need, and it's good to look at and all that stuff.
it
It
would
works
have
well.
been the perfect launch game for the Wii U. Not New
Yes.
Super Mario Bros. U. Just stick in Mario Maker. Say, here's a gamepad. Look how innovative this is. It's using that you could do this on any other system, which is entirely true. And hey, we're Nintendo. This is like one of our biggest franchises. Here's a really unique take on it. Boom, launch, hype.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it was such a shame that this came. It's now going to turn out, I'm sure, to be one of the Wii U's last games, and that's
Yeah.
quite a shame in a
It really
sense.
is.
But yeah, I mean, the wider sort of picture when you're looking at 2014, the amount of innovation in a game like Mario Maker and Splatoon for 2015 is just unbelievable. Like these games are really doing things that Nintendo would never have done in the past. And when
And
you
it's
compare it to
also
the top games, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it's also very exciting for the future of Nintendo because both of these games were made
Yeah.
by younger development teams, by people who are new to the company, who haven't been around for eons and are throwing out new ideas which are creative and what Nintendo is all about, which is great. Splatoon is one of the most interesting things they've released in a long time, and Mario Maker was also done by, a younger person. So, yes, very excited for
And
the future of Nintendo with these young people.
And when you compare it to a year like 2014, which was, Tropical Freeze, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, they're all great games. I absolutely love those games, but they're all, to a massive extent, cookie cutter games.
Yes.
They all have, they all have previous entries in those series that they're improving upon and releasing a better version of those games. Mario Maker and Splatoon are completely new. They're just so fresh, and like you can just tell from the media, the podcasts we're listening to are just so hyped about those two games. And it's just with the NX coming out potentially next year, potentially 2017, who knows? It's those kind of fresh ideas that Nintendo needs more of, and like you said, it's exciting for the future.
Yeah, they need to definitely focus on that stuff. I mean, by all means, make your Mario Kart, make your Smash Brothers, but keep investing in new properties and new ideas, and I think we'll be set for some good stuff. Let's talk then about the online and the sharing stuff, Bally, because I think both of us have issues with it. I think probably me more so than you. It's nice in terms of sharing on Twitter and stuff like that. You could argue that maybe QR codes could be helpful, but then you realize the gamepad has a front-facing camera, and so trying to line up a QR code very quickly becomes a gargantuan task. So they have the system where it's like a 16-digit code that you put in, and after you've done that, you can follow the person. So you really only need to do it once if you want to follow a particular creator, but would it have been a pain in the ass for them to implement a system where you just look up a username? Would it have been a pain in the ass for them to implement a system where people who are already on your Wii U friends list just pop up in your section?
That's the big one, I think.
And would it be a pain in the ass to add an option to just search by name? I want to play a Metroid-style stage. Let me type in Metroid and see all of those. I want to play a Zelda-style stage. Let me type that in.
Yeah.
Why are all these options missing? It is kind of a complete clusterfuck when it comes for searching for specific stuff that you want to find. So, yeah.
It's good at showing you the hotness. It's good at saying, here are our top levels, boom, there they are. They're the top 50 rated. Here are the up and coming, and here are the best from last week or something. It's great at that, but the second you say, right, I want to try this type of level, there's literally nothing you can do other than manually just look through certain levels. Look online at Twitter to see who's made what, or, follow a user you like. Once you're following the users you like, it is quite easy to go and see what the users have been uploading. But, like you said, not having the friends list immediately sync with your friends list on Mario Maker is just stupid. Like, there's
Makes
no
no
reason
sense
to not have it.
So illogical.
And like when I was making my level and you were saying change this, and I'd change it and then re-upload it, it just wasn't syncing properly. Like there's a refresh button within sort of the online system, and it doesn't seem to do anything.
No, it doesn't, because you kept re-uploading it and changing it, and I kept refreshing it, and it was the same course that had already been uploaded before.
Exactly.
It was so weird. We had to close out the game and go back into it.
Exactly. It's weird. I just don't get. There's just definitely glitches and bugs that are there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's very simple patches they're probably dying to get out there as fast as possible.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
They're kind of frustrating. And
yeah, I really think that Nintendo need to be patching this game at some point to add these advanced search features. I mean, for one, you can't change the type of Mario level that you're looking for. Like, if you want to do Super Mario Bros. 3 and just Super Mario Bros. 3 levels, there's no option for that. There's no option to say, I want to search for auto-scrolling levels. Like, there is a minutia to the certain type of level that you could create with a search system, and they have nowhere close to anything like that. So, really, there needs to be a lot of work done on this to make it a more searchable, easy to find environment. And I think a problem with just doing the featured stuff and the most popular stuff is most of the time the stuff that gets upvoted is automatic scrolling levels where you do nothing and you just watch it. Sure, it's impressive, but it's not a level you want to play. Or it's someone who's done a music box thing where it plays a song. There's just no real way of getting to the meat of what you want. And sure, the 100 Mario Challenge and all that stuff is great, but searching tools, very, very lackluster. So, yeah, kind of sucks. Kind of sucks.
But overall, we're pretty happy with this game. Like we the buzz that we sort of had talking on Skype, sharing levels. Um, we were on like one Skype session for like 5-6 hours at one point, just both of us
I didn't even notice. Yeah.
making our own levels, sharing them, playing each other's levels, playing other levels, just talking about them. It's just so interactive. And yeah, like you said, the time just flew by. It was kind of scary. And I have absolutely been enjoying plenty of other Nintendo games this year, but none have made the time fly by as quickly as this game.
I think Mario Maker has given me a real sense of what it is like to be a game designer. Not only in the idea that you have to think so deeply and iterate and change things and think of every possibility that can occur, but also in the
Hmm.
sense that you want people to give you feedback on it and you want to, like, it's about when people put out reviews for games and then the developers are always out there looking and reading everything and listening to everything. Like when we talked about Grow Home on this podcast, I believe one of the developers on that team listened to the podcast because we were talking about it and like tweeted us and said, oh yeah, thanks for playing our game. So people who are developing these games want to hear stuff and see stuff about their game. And
Hmm.
so yesterday I did this thing which I didn't expect I was going to do at all, but I finished my Metroid stage, and I was so proud of it. And I'd done such a good job of I spent like 8.5 hours making this thing.
You were bigging it up a lot that day, and I was like, okay, another Metro stage, here we go. And just to all the listeners out there, honestly, this is the best Metroid stage I'd played and seen because it is thematically and gameplay like accurately representative of Metroid. And I won't spoil some of the surprises in it, but I'd highly recommend you check it out.
Yeah, please do. But so what I did
That's just a
was,
cheeky plug.
yeah, we'll plug those at the end as well. What I did is I went on Twitch and I found people who are streaming Super Mario Maker, and I decided there are a lot of people who have not many viewers on Twitch and they want to play levels from other people and they want their chat to interact with them. So I was like, okay, let's find someone who has like 5 viewers. Go in there, drop my level code and be like, hey, play my level. It's a Metroid themed level. See how you like it. And I did this with about 4 or 5 different Twitch streamers. And for like 2 or 3 hours, I was sitting there watching people play my level and seeing their reactions to stuff and seeing like how well they coped with certain situations and if they could break certain parts of it. And it made me go back and kind of change a tiny little element of it, and I re-uploaded it as like a version 2 of the same stage. But man, Bali, you should try this out. It's so much fun. You go onto Twitch.
Going into a Twitch stream and
Yeah.
watching someone play. Yeah.
Yeah, just you give them the
And
code.
that's the thing is that because we were on Skype, we weren't physically watching each other play live. I was just
Right.
sort of narrating what I was playing, and that's great in and of itself. But you're right, watching someone play it live in front of you on like a Twitch stream must be pretty cool.
It was awesome, and I got really good feedback, and people were like super happy with the level, and like a couple of them followed me. It was really, really cool. So I recommend people trying that out if you want to see people play your levels. There's lots of people streaming Mario Maker at this point in time, so that's a hot tip if you want it, and you want to get stars, because stars are what my life is about. You got to get as many stars as possible, Bally. That's what Mario Maker is
Give
all
me some
about.
stars.
Yeah.
I need stars.
Yeah, so man, very happy with Mario Maker. Just
Very
kind of
happy.
shocked. Like it is certainly in the running for one of the best games this year. There are a lot of those in my mind
Definitely.
personally. But Jesus, it has kind of exceeded my expectations in so many ways. So, yeah.
But it's nice to see Nintendo have a good stab at Game of the Year. I think a
Yes,
lot of reviewers are going to be like, you know what? That's having a good stab at Game of the Year. Might not get Game of the
exactly.
Year, but it's definitely up there.
It'll be in the conversation, which is
Hmm.
impressive in many aspects because Nintendo generally don't draw the eye of many, games media outlets these days. But I'm sure people
No.
will be talking about it, and it's strange because when I say I've been playing this much of Mario Maker, it almost like saying I've been playing Mario Maker kind of doesn't work in the sense that I'm not really playing because I'm creating and like my clock shows 25 hours or something played, but it's like how much
Oof.
of that time have I actually been playing the game, playing levels from other people? And I would warrant a guess that it's like 2 or 3. Like the vast majority of that time has been spent sitting there and making stuff, which yeah, it's different. It's very different. So,
Hmm.
yep.
What else have you been playing, MBZ?
So aside from being glued to my Wii U with Mario Maker, I was in London and I managed to finish Codename Steam. And I wasn't super expecting that this was going to happen. I kind of expected, Bally, as many reviews had said, that I'd get pissed off and stop, like, however far through the game and be like, it's fine, I bought this.
You did get pissed off though.
I did. I mean, I think really I got pissed off like once. And that
Hmm.
is impressive to me because I expected,
You get pissed off easily.
yeah, I expected there to be a lot more ire drawn from me from this game. But Codename Steam is fucking awesome, okay? Like, it's kind of blowing my mind that this game did so poorly reviews wise, and I understand obviously that the launch version was much worse than the version I'm playing, not only because it has that speed up thing, but I think this was patched in later. Every time you go into a mission, there's a button which says suggested, which is basically telling you these are the 4 units that will probably suit you the best going into this mission. And the complaints I was hearing from people like Johnny Metz and James Jones on RFN was you don't know what the mission coming up is, and therefore it's kind of a random picking
Yeah.
of units that you don't know what's going to happen. And I never dealt with that. I think I only failed to complete a mission and had to start it over from the very beginning twice throughout the whole thing. Like,
So question:
yes.
Is that suggested thing patched in?
I don't know. I have no idea because I'm playing a version in September, which wasn't clearly the launch version.
Interesting.
And I don't know if this is something that has been there for the whole time or whether they added it because of the complaint. But let me tell you, it helps a lot. Not only because it makes your job easier in terms of going into the level and knowing that you have the right units, but also it just gives you variety because there are a lot of characters in this game. And when you first play it, with the demo and stuff, you only have a couple, and they're kind of they have differences, but they both have a rifle, and one of them has like a grenade thing, and the other has like a healing thing, and you feel like, okay, there are probably going to be a lot more units that are similar to this, but the expansion that goes on in terms of the variety and creativity that they come up with weapon types and with characters and all that stuff is really great. And I feel like if I hadn't had the suggested thing, I would have kind of tried to stick with a core group and just learned them and known them. Whereas with this, not only would it probably make my life easier because I had the tools to deal with the map, but it also allowed me to try everyone out and to see, what moves they had and how they worked in the field of play and all that stuff. So really encouraging stuff there. The maps are all so different and varied. They're also fair, I feel, in terms of not necessarily the enemies, because sometimes that can be bullshitty and unfair, but in terms of the way that they give you save points and they allow you to heal up your whole team and that kind of stuff. I feel like if you're trying to play this game and 100% it, you're going to have a really shitty time because some of the stuff is really out of the way and hard to get to, and you'll probably end up dying a whole bunch trying to get every gear in every level, right? But if you try and approach it with the idea of, right, I just want to complete the objective and get to the end, and I'll use the saves along the way and conserve steam and, like, be thoughtful and tactical and approach the objective from the angle which it is trying to get me to approach it, it is such a fun experience. It is so, so fun. And yes, the idea of fog of war may be annoying in something like Fire Emblem, but the tension it adds to the game is amazing, and it makes you have such an incredible rush when you finish something. Like, the game is pitched to a difficulty that raises the stakes so that when you beat something you feel like a fucking champion. And usually I'm not a big fan of difficult games because they can be bullshitty in certain areas. But Codename Steam, yes, it's hard, but it's hard for the right reasons, I think. And you'll never really, if you're playing it wrong, sure, you'll probably have a bad time, and I think a lot of the reviewers weren't playing it in the correct way. But
Get
if
good.
you do what the game kind of instructs you to do and follow its rules, then you will have a really good time. And I didn't expect this, but this is one of my favorite games this year, and it is in the running for like one of my favorite games ever. And if they could go back, and I know they won't because this game sold fucking terribly and they're not going to get a second shot at this. If they could go back and tweak some of those things so that when enemies have their animations and they're bobbing up and down and you try and get a shot off, but the timing is off so you completely miss. If they fix up some of the weird janky nonsense and make it a much more playable experience, that game could be one of my favorites ever because the concept here is so strong for me that it is, yeah, it's great. Codename Steam is fucking great, and not enough people have been evangelizing it, and yes, I like it a lot.
I think even if they don't make a second Codename Steam, they're surely going to take on board the criticism, and whatever new IP they might try in the future, they'll definitely incorporate, fixing that criticism.
Yes, I hope so. I hope that they get another shot at this style of game. If it isn't under the name of Codename Steam, then something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super
I
cool.
mean, if they threw in the Fire Emblem or Advance Wars IP, I'm sure it would boost sales to some degree. So you never know.
Sure.
That might be quite controversial, but
Who knows? Who knows? Bali, I definitely want you to play this game, and I'll lend
I
it to you
will
at some
play this
point.
game because I did enjoy the demo, and yeah, I will give it a go.
All right, fantastic. Well, that is going to be us for the segment of what we've been playing. Join us after the break where we'll be answering some of your emails. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. It's that time again. It's time for a few of your emails. I've got them all lined up, but as usual, we're kind of running out again. We're not running out, but we are running out. We always need more. So the email
Look,
address...
there's never a time when we don't want your emails. What
So-
Val is trying to say is
Yeah.
just give us emails.
We almost want them as much as those stars on our Mario Maker courses. That's how much
yeah.
we want your emails.
Honestly, I prefer stars on my Mario Maker courses, but if you can spare me an email, look, I'm not going to complain.
So, you know what? Just go away and do both. We'd love that. So,
Yeah.
the email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. And the first email of the day is from Rhiannon. Dear Bally and MBZ, this is my second time writing in, so first I should thank you for reading out my first email and answering my questions on the podcast a while back. I recently tried to get into the Mario and Luigi series. I played the first game for around 5 hours a while ago, but then lost interest, and recently the same thing happened with the second game. Normally, I'm really good with finishing games, particularly Nintendo games, but for me, these two just got boring and repetitive. No offense to the many fans of that series. So I wanted to ask you both what Nintendo franchises, if any, you feel this way about. They don't have to be games you hate, but just Nintendo franchises that you tried but don't like enough to play. Rihanna.
Interesting. I think this is a tough one for me to think about because I feel like if there are Nintendo franchises that I'm not that acquainted with, it's more my own fault of not having played them enough or given them the time of day to know enough about them to make a decision on whether I like them or not. So we can say things like Pikmin and Advance Wars and Star Fox and I guess to some extent F-Zero, although F-Zero I have played the Super Nintendo game quite a lot and I don't have any desire to go out there and play the N64 or GameCube ones.
Oh, I can't really think of another racing game or driving game that you've kind of loved in the past. I don't
No.
know, maybe
I mean,
Mario
Mario
Kart's the
Kart is like,
closest.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
the one exception in some senses, but then it's not really a racing game. I mean, it is, but it's also so different.
yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I think probably the easy answer.
I don't even. I think out of those ones you've listed, I think you'd probably enjoy F-Zero the least, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah, probably. Like,
Um,
I would get the least out of it on a personal level, whereas you are much more built for that stuff. Like, you have much more of an affinity for racing, and so you like it much more than I do. But yeah, I think generally, for me, it's hard to say because I just haven't played enough of those series, and so I wouldn't necessarily say I can't get into them. It's I haven't tried to get into them yet, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah, I mean, I would agree. There's a few that I've not properly tried to get into that I'm sure I would like. But I would also say that there's a lot of series that I've played and loved and gone off. I would say games like Animal Crossing. I mean, we
Yes.
both absolutely loved Wild World. I never picked up New Leaf. I actually think, in all fairness, I'm ready for the next big mainline Animal Crossing. I think I'd enjoy that, especially if there were a few listeners playing along with me.
I mean, it's probably been like a 10-year gap now since you were fully committed to an Animal Crossing.
About that, I think it was about 2005, 2006. Yeah, Wild World. So
Yeah, I mean, we both bought the Wii version, but neither of us played it longer than like 3 or 4 hours. Like
yeah,
that was dead in the water.
yeah, that was, and throughout those whole 3 or 4 hours, I was just thinking, this isn't great. I've seen this and done this before. It's boring.
Yeah,
Um, I've already said how disappointed I was with many aspects of Woolly World, so I'd consider not picking up the next Yoshi game whenever
mm.
that would come out. I also think like a game like Nintendogs, I absolutely loved it at the time, but I don't think I'm that keen on picking up the next one in the series. I don't know if you
No,
know.
it's kind of a time and a place thing with those sort of
Precisely,
games.
and I'd even throw Pokemon in with that mix. I mean, I am like I said about Animal Crossing. I'm ready to play X and Y, and I will play Pokemon Y eventually. But I'm not like jumping out of my pants to play that game. Like it's just something that I feel I want to play and want to try, and I think I will enjoy. But I think after I play that game, it'll be it'll be another long while before I'm ready to try another Pokemon game. Whereas, the mainline series, the Marios, the Metroids, the Zeldas, I just want to play all of them straight away. And I should say 3D Mario, not necessarily 2D Mario, although Mario Maker's a nice twist.
Right, very nice twist. No, I agree with you. I think generally the big series that I care about, I'm always there's an appetite that I have for them that is not um kind of ending. Like it just kind of lasts forever in a sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just I guess the way that I'm drawn to those types of games. I say maybe one that could be a little bit of a contentious point. I'd throw Donkey Kong Country out there in the sense that I liked playing Donkey Kong Country Returns. Like I enjoyed it. It was a solid platformer, but as you can tell, I'm not the one, singing the praises of Tropical Freeze on this podcast. That's not me.
You've not
That's
played enough of it though. You're just assuming
no.
that the few levels you've played are like, right, yep, it's the same game. I don't need to play this. I'm done.
But I mean, like obviously, I don't want to be that guy who's like, "Oh, it's just the same game. It's just the same." Because yes, there are appreciable differences, but there is a similarity in the Donkey Kong Country games for me that makes it like
I see where you're coming from. And
yeah,
you're the kind of guy who, you know, isn't as fast, and I don't want to put you in a box here, but you're not like as obsessed or keen on, the art and the music and the subtle environmental changes, perhaps. You're much more
No.
into, the mechanics, the platforming, and I will completely agree that the platforming, the mechanics are identical. So if you're looking for a new 2D experience in terms of platforming mechanics, other than maybe the water levels, there's really not anything materially different. I can see where you're coming from.
Right, that is me in a nutshell. I am a mechanics first gamer. You can draw a lovely picture all day long, but if it doesn't play well, then fuck you, essentially. So that's where I'm coming from.
And something
Um,
like Fire Emblem, I've only completed one Fire Emblem game, really enjoyed it. I've got Awakening on the horizon, so I'm still on that journey of, expanding my horizons and playing other Fire Emblem games and enjoying it. So, and I don't
yeah,
think I'm going to burn out on a game like Fire Emblem because I really did enjoy it, and it's not the kind of
yeah,
game that's as easy to burn out on for me. So, yeah.
yeah. So not really any experiences like Rhiannon's here. We generally, I think, after the podcast anyway, we always try and finish our games, so we don't just
Oh,
leave
yeah.
them sitting there. So yes, not really any experiences like that at hand. But yeah, interesting question. Thanks for asking.
So our next email is from Daniel. Hey MBZ and Bally, I love listening to your podcast, and right now I'm listening to the ones I missed before I got into it. Now on to my question. On episode 4 or 5, I wondered whether either of you had played any of the Tales of games or want to play one in the future, especially MBZ as a great RPG fan should like one, I imagine. The first game in the series I played was Tales of the Abyss for the 3DS after I saw it cheap in a store and bought it, even though I never heard of the series before. It looked interesting to me, so I was pretty confident it wouldn't be too big of a waste of money, and I was right. I loved the game and replayed it on a harder difficulty immediately after my first playthrough. Thank you so much, and I hope my English wasn't too bad. That's Daniel from Austria.
Thank you, Daniel, for that email. We found it funny that he straight ahead in this long RPG went ahead and played it on a harder difficulty as soon as he'd finished it. I was saying to Bally, like, hey, Bally, that's like if you went and decided after Xenoblade was done, you were just going to jump back into New Game Plus for another 90 hours of fun.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think like with the territory that we're in right now, like we don't really have the time to do that where we just like play one game forever and ever because we like to talk about different things on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate where he's coming from. He certainly enjoyed that series. So he's talking about the Tales of series, Bally, which I know you don't really know anything about.
Zilch.
So
Absolutely
yeah.
zilch. I'm going to get a lot of stick for this, I'm sure, but yeah.
Yeah. So I've known about it for quite a long time. I remember reading about it in Official Nintendo magazine when Tales of Symphonia came out on the GameCube. And I was always interested in it because it had a really kind of colorful, vibrant look to it. It kind of stood out very uniquely in the GameCube's library, and I was always like, maybe that one game I'll get at some point. And I never did. I never played it. And over the years, I always like searched old game stores and everything to see if I can find a copy. And actually, when Bally and I went to Hyper Japan, they had a copy of Tales of Symphonia there, and it was something like 70 quid, which was ridiculous because clearly this is a well-loved game and it is very expensive. It's the same place where they had Path of Radiance for like 100. So yeah, those games, those GameCube RPGs are very rare, hard to find, and very expensive. And I really want to play Symphonia before I play any of the other ones, so I don't know if it'll be a while before I do that. Maybe I'll just pop it up on an emulator. Who knows? Break the law.
Who's it
Um,
made by? It's not going to come onto the eShop anytime soon, is it?
no, well, it being a GameCube game, no, in the
Well,
first
regardless
place.
of that, because I'm sure GameCube will come eventually. But
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I'm just going to have a quick look. This is a gap in my knowledge. Oh, it's a Namco game. So
okay.
yeah, it's a Namco RPG, which is interesting. So yeah, it's I don't know. I guess that's no reason publisher wise why that couldn't happen. I'm think they've had quite a few games on Virtual Console. So yeah, if we're
Hmm.
omitting the GameCube thing, then yeah, it's possible. But yeah, that's the other avenue. Maybe in the future, who knows what the NX might bring? But maybe I'll be able to play Symphony at some point there. But yeah, Tales of the Abyss is available on 3DS. It's quite cheap on Amazon, I've seen. So maybe I could grab that at some point. Yeah, I am looking for an excuse at some point to get into this series, especially after, this year and last year playing so many more new RPGs. It seems like a good idea. So,
And
yes, Daniel, I
do,
probably will.
do they all link together story-wise, or
I don't think so. I think it's more of a Final Fantasy situation where
right?
they share like enemies and kind of aesthetic and stuff like that and battle system, but they're not strictly tied by any kind of storyline that over,
Mm,
branches over them. So, yeah, I guess I could just
cool.
jump in anywhere, honestly. So it doesn't really matter.
So we've got a question from Alex about Super Mario Maker. Hi, Bally and MBZ. What are your thoughts about what the community is likely to produce? Everything involved with the franchise so far seems to always produce difficult levels, but this should not be what it's all about. What about puzzle-themed levels, perhaps? What kind of level types would you like to see people make for this game?
Well, Alex sent this letter to us a little before Mario Maker came out, which maybe we should have gotten to sooner, but unfortunately, obviously, due to certain things, we weren't able to. And it's out here now, and we've seen some of the levels that the community have been producing. And so far, Bali, it seems that things are leaning in the direction that he hoped it wouldn't, which is like much more harder levels, more kind of auto-scrolling stuff, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's quite frustrating where there doesn't seem like there's a lot of middle ground between an auto. So I would class that his puzzle theme levels. A lot of people are just making they're showing off the contraptions by making the auto levels where you just stand still, stuff happens. It's really cool, really great, but you're not feeling very involved because obviously you're just standing still. So I feel like they're one area, and then the other area, like you've suggested, is just really difficult levels. And there's not doesn't feel like there's a middle ground where they're not necessarily hard levels, but they're kind of puzzly and interactive levels. And there's definitely a lack of those, I would say. And they're also personally my favorite levels. And the one level I've made has been, that style.
Right, absolutely. You really tried to get that nailed down. It took a long time, but obviously
Mm.
you were focusing quite heavily on it. Yeah, I think this may be just a case of people getting out their system. As soon as you get Mario Maker, you're like, oh my god, I want to make like the most crazy, ridiculous, really impossible thing ever. That's the first instinct as soon as you get it out of the box. And I feel like after the first few weeks, when things calm down and when those kind of casual people fall off making levels, the people who will remain are those who are going to be trying to create solid, fun, challenging but not impossibly difficult levels, and hopefully that's where the long tail of this game lays. Obviously, we kind of want some more stuff in the future, like checkpoints and that stuff, which hopefully will be implemented with patches, and there might be DLC down the line, which will help kind of beef this stuff out and make it not as challenging and difficult to create impossible levels. So we'll see how that goes, but yeah, I have a feeling that's what's going to happen.
And I think it'd be quite nice if they did come up with some way of dividing up the levels a bit better between the auto levels, the puzzle levels, and the balls to the wall difficult levels. Because at the moment, there's not really anything that divides them. Obviously, it can rank how hard a level is based on how many people complete it. But some sort of software that you could sort of maybe tell how many contraptions were in a level that would rank it in some way, or I don't know how it would work. But I feel they could do more to differentiate between the styles of levels that might encourage people to make more of one level versus another.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something coming down the line, but
But
we'll
I mean,
see,
I
I guess.
personally am more in favor of puzzle style levels. I know you're working on the Metroid level, MBZ.
Oh
I love
boy.
that kind of stuff, quirky stuff that is not always hard. It can be hard, that's great, but not always hard. And I tried to make a level that wasn't particularly hard, but was quite interesting. That's the theme I definitely like the most.
Yeah.
So, our final email this week is from Colin. Dear MBZ and Bally, I have a theory about the first mobile game slash app that Nintendo may make, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. What if the first dive they take into the mobile market is actually a tie-in with Super Mario Maker? Imagine creating levels on your phone or iPad, playtesting on those devices anywhere, and then being able to upload the same levels onto the Wii U console. The timing coincides to some extent with the release of Super Mario Maker and the rollout of mobile games. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for this. I feel like this could really grab the attention of everyone young and old and would be a huge success. I really enjoy the podcast, guys. I live near Philadelphia in the US and listen while I work for a company where we make a fake silicone wearable wounds for military medic training. Just thought that
Jesus.
that would give you a fun visual later. Right. Wow.
That's crazy. Well, Valley, it seems to be all about the Mario Maker today. What do you think about his idea? I think I've pitched this once before. Do you think this is a possibility?
Yeah, I know we've discussed this before, and I have two issues with it. The first is assuming it happens in the way Colin has described. I think the idea of having a D-pad and a jump button on a touch screen is horrible. So he implies that you'll be able to play the levels on your iPad or iPhone or iOS device, and I think that is just a really horrible idea. And I know that there's loads of hacks and mods and whatever already on it that have, virtual D-pads, but I think when we've discussed this numerous times, we absolutely hate them. Now I know that
Yes, they
loads of young
suck.
people, well, it's like what they've been brought up on. We've mentioned your
Yep.
cousin who plays FIFA on a bloody
And it
iPad.
kills me.
And it
Kills me
kills me
inside.
inside as well. So I think that's the first issue. Secondly, if you remove that issue and you only can create your level on your iOS device, I think that someone who owns an iOS device but not a Wii U will feel a bit. I think they'll feel like it's pointless. Like I'm just making levels.
Don't you think they will maybe, in some crazy scenario, be persuaded that they should maybe invest in a Wii U after playing this on an iOS device?
That's a really big jump. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a jump I'm sure some people would make, and I'm not going to say how people think on that issue, but I just see that as an absolutely huge jump. I think the really likely thing to happen, and I could see this happening end of next year as early as that, is just bring Super Mario Maker onto the 3DS. Like, it's a
Yeah.
touch screen, it could work, it'd be a little bit different. It'd obviously be handheld. That'd be cool. So I don't think
Man,
that's out of the
imagine if
question.
they added the art styles from Super Mario Land 2. Oh,
Oh, that would be cool.
I'd love
Yes,
that. That would be
yes,
incredible.
yes. So, I mean, I think that is way more likely than any of this iOS talk, but that's just what I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think his idea of playtesting on the iPad is certainly not a viable option. If anything, I feel like they would give you the tools to kind of sketch something out and, throw an idea out there, but you probably wouldn't be able to make a competent level completely on the iPad alone because as we've both found out by playing Super Mario Maker, you need to test that stuff and it needs to be
Hmm.
consistent and vigorous and like there are so many loopholes and things that happen in game design that you just don't even think about until it's placed in front of you and not being able to test that stuff means that sure, you could throw an idea out there and try a level, but very, very likely it is not going to be playable or well made in any sense. So, yeah, I don't think that playtesting is a possibility, but I do like the idea. I like the theory of throwing it up on the App Store and having it there as a free download or something like that, where it can open it up to a bunch of people who wouldn't have even known it existed. And I agree on your point that yes, that's not going to convert everyone to buy a Wii U, but I think it will do a good job of getting more people to at least know about it, to know it exists, get word of mouth out there, and that kind of helps to build, without even having to use marketing from Nintendo's standpoint. Word of mouth is much more valuable than that in many senses. So it could be a very valuable thing for them to do. I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to kind of test it out. And for me, it would be great because I own a Wii U and I'm able to use that and interface with it. So yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but it would have to be executed correctly. And please don't use virtual D-pads, Nintendo. Please, for
What
the love of God.
what about the idea of a separate controller. Now, I'm sure there's software where you can just sync a Wiimote to an iPhone or an iOS device. But what if Nintendo brought out something new that was specifically designed to wirelessly sync up to an iOS device where you can have buttons?
I don't know. I'm not sure it would gain traction. It would be a peripheral.
I don't know where they would sell it. They'd sell it in a game store, I guess,
Yeah.
and that's not where the people who play Angry Birds go, you know.
No,
So I
absolutely.
think, yeah, I think I made a straw man and I shot it down suitably.
Well, that's what they're for, Bally. That's what they're for.
Cool. So, is that all our thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the iOS stuff is interesting. I mean, I guess we can talk more in the future on what we think Nintendo's going to do, but now would have been a good time to kind of coincide their DNA initiative, but it seems like they're more interested in Pokemon Go and shit like that.
Well, we're gonna talk all about that and all the rest of the news in the next segment. But in the meantime, remember our email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. We are loving all the emails. We've been getting a lot recently, so it's quite exciting in the run up to episode 50, which I'm sure we'll mention in a second.
Indeed. So, yeah, join us after the break. We'll be right back with more of This Nintendo Live. Alright, everyone, welcome back to the final part of the show. This week, bunch of news happened, Bally, and, none of it is like the biggest. Actually, one of them is like the biggest, but
I think they're pretty big.
they all come together to create a whole which is all relevant and worth talking about and good to throw our opinions out on. So I think probably the most important one, which we're going to start with, is Nintendo has a new president. They named the new president, and his name is Tatsumi Kimishima. You may know him as he was formerly the head of Nintendo of America, and before
Reggie, right? Yeah.
Yes, before Reggie took that job, before Reggie quit Pizza Hut and decided to do video games after storming the world with, I think there's a really famous pizza that he pioneered, and I can't remember what it's called now, but
The
after that
Edge.
work was done, no, I don't know, I don't think anything
love
like
that
that,
one.
but
I
yeah.
remember the good old days when Pizza Hut had those branded pizzas.
Yeah, it's a weird time,
Yeah, I love
They've
that.
moved on. Anyway, enough about pizzas. We're here to talk about presidents. So yes, he was. I think he then moved up to be CEO of Nintendo of America while Reggie was president, and then Iwata took over as kind of corporate entity over everything. Was like CEO of America and of Japan. And Kimishima moved back to Japan, became head of a division I can't remember, and then he was moved to HR and became the head of that, and now he has been named as president of Nintendo. Bally, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about this appointment?
I think one important factor is the fact he's 65, I believe.
Yes, he is quite old.
So I think I read something or heard something that he might be a stopgap and that I think he's only meant to be president for a year or so.
Yes, that's what they're
Um,
saying at the moment, is that he has signed the contract or whatever. They have kind of put it in writing that he is there for a year at the moment. That could be extended. We don't know. Things can change over time. But it does feel to me like this is a safe move from Nintendo, where they're like, we just need someone who is experienced, who has been with the company a very long
who
time,
called out the Wii U? We should
right, who
add
did.
that.
We'll talk about that in a second. Who has experience being the head of a part of the company. As in America, he was heading things up there, so he has the leadership skills to do it. And yeah, he's just a solid choice. But I don't think that he's going to be staying for long. Number one, of course, because they've mentioned the 1 year thing, but also he is quite old. And if Nintendo want to have someone long term to kind of push their stuff forward, I feel like they're going to choose someone younger, and they're probably still taking time in that process. But in the meantime, they have to have someone. They can't just go for like another year and a half with no president. They have to have someone in that seat. So while they kind of groom someone and vet someone for the position, it seems a good idea to have someone like Kimishima fill that space.
Mm.
So
I think the big question is, I believe we know that they are going to continue with Nintendo Directs,
yes, they have. They've
but
confirmed that.
we don't know who will lead them, whether he will do all of them or whether they'll split them between regions more for the whole thing, you know. So Reggie might do the whole North American one, and then Shibata would do the whole European one. So I don't, we still don't know that. So it'll be interesting to see because I mean, we've got a lot of news we're about to say, and this might be the first time that we've had this amount of news without talking about a direct
Yeah.
for since before the directs even started. So it's quite weird that we're saying all this stuff when there hadn't been a direct. So there has to be a direct the next few weeks, the next couple of months. Do you think?
Yeah, I think probably at least a couple of months away, maybe 1 month away. I think they need to rethink what they want to do with directs. I certainly don't think that Kimishima is going to be front and center in the camera, in the limelight.
And I think that would be silly if what happens is it is a year or even 2 years or something, and there is a short period of transition. It'd be silly to build a relationship between the fans and the CEO like they did with Iwata.
Yes, especially if he's going to just be there for a certain amount of time and then step
Precisely,
down.
yeah.
Yeah, it seems likely. I mean, in Japan, they had already kind of introduced a new guy to lead the directs. His name is Morimoto, and he has been doing the last couple of directs. Iwata, obviously, at the time, we didn't know that his illness was that bad, but he stepped away and decided, right, I'm going to have this guy, this young guy, take over and start doing it. So they kind of have their dude in place if they're just going to stick with him. I'm not sure if he would be, broadened out to the Western markets, but it does make sense if they're just going to stick it to individual countries and regions and say Reggie does North America, Shibata does Europe, as you said. That kind of seems more likely. But Kimishima doesn't seem like the sort of public figure that Iwata was, in the sense that I saw a tweet from Johnny Metz who talked about he was
Yeah.
head of Nintendo World Report during Kimishima's reign in Nintendo of America, and he basically never knew anything about him. Like, he made no public appearances, he was never kind of shown and talked about or, made himself apparent. So he does seem like more of a private individual, which is perfectly fine. Seems more like a businessman, very different to Iwata. But maybe that's what they need right now. Maybe they just need someone who is unassuming, who isn't necessarily going to be a name to be remembered, but is just kind of there as a strong helm of the ship while it's kind of in rocky waters. So, yeah, I think that probably is likely that we'll get Nintendo Direct soon, but I don't think he'll be too involved with them. So,
And
we'll see.
yeah, the whole so internally during the sort of production cycle of the Wii U, he apparently called it out and said, "This is too similar to the Wii. I'm concerned it won't do very well."
Yeah, he had concerns apparently, and we can take that maybe at face value. Maybe we can kind of think about, well, it's kind of easy to say that now with hindsight and everything. But I don't know. I kind of am willing to believe him that he was maybe one of the dissenters in the company. It kind of surprised me in some ways because, in a sense, I don't think of Nintendo as an entity where they would have people arguing over things like that, and they seem to be like a singular focus with a singular vision. But certainly there seemed to be controversy
I
within.
think they definitely sell themselves as having one united front when a
Yeah,
product comes out. But
well,
I'm sure there's plenty of in-house scuffles and debates. I mean, it's not,
sure.
especially with something as momentous as where you go after a console like the Wii.
Yeah.
Surely someone's going to be unhappy with the direction that they went in, no matter what they came up with, and I'm sure they're in. I guess they might be past that period with the NX, and they know what it is it's going to be. But I'm sure they've had plenty of scuffles about that as well.
Yeah, well, for the moment, Kimishima has confirmed that he is kind of sticking to Iwata's vision, or what Iwata's vision was for the next kind of couple of years, and not making any radical departures there. So, I guess we're going to see
It's
what
his first
happens.
investors meeting at the end of October, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
it'll
that'll be the
be,
first time people will ask their crazy array of questions, and
yeah, we'll get, I'm sure, a
we
very
might
interesting Q&A session.
find out what quality of life is gonna
Who
be,
knows?
because that is still completely unknown.
It's
And
just been absent for so long. They've just never really talked about it, and no one knows what's happening with it. But I'm sure they're still invested in that side of the business. And he actually said that their focus is on growing new parts of the business, and that is definitely one of them. So,
I want that. I want that bed sensor. I want that little thing you stick at the end of your bed and it tells you when you've had a good night's sleep.
you actually going to buy it? Do you think you'll be a consumer who goes out and says, oh, "Yeah, I'm going to get this
I
thing"?
think if they do it in a way like they've done with Wii Fit, where you get all your graphs and you can follow your progress, and they put a like nice sort of Nintendo tint on everything. I think I'd
Yeah.
and it was and as long as it's a reasonable price, I don't see why I wouldn't give it a go.
It's interesting because yeah, you are very much like that with your running. Is like I want to know my
Yeah,
stats. I want to know
I
everything. I
love
want
a
to break it
stat.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and sleeping is always something I think everyone's like this. They're always like, I wish I'd got more sleep.
yeah.
Like so having some sort of way of monitoring that would be a bit of fun.
I don't give a shit about it, but whatever. You can be interested and tell us about it when it comes out, so I don't have to buy it. So good job. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting time for Nintendo Valley. Lots of transitions happening. They still have their mobile games to come out this year. The DNA thing with the restructuring of their online and all that stuff. Very fascinating to see how this moves forward. It's good that they now have someone in place in the president's chair, and yeah, I don't know.
If you were Kimishima right now,
Yes.
what is the number one thing you would change immediately about the way Nintendo do things that you'd say, right, I'm finally in charge. I need to do this because it was really bugging me before. Let's do this.
Ah man, that's
I've
an
got an
interesting
idea.
one. Okay, you shoot first.
So my idea is we as a whole company united are not going to leak anything. We are going to be incredibly like we've got the NX coming out potentially next year or 2017. We are going to be unbelievably careful about the files for anything about the system, where they get uploaded, which people know about it and which people don't. We are going to come down hard on anyone that leaks anything, and we are going to keep this idea internal. That would be my number one aim, because I just think recently they've been a bit sloppy with the whole. Well, just so much stuff has been leaked,
Do you
and I
think that's
think
Nintendo's fault, or do you think that's more the modern internet era?
it's
Because
definitely.
I feel like it's a bit of both.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree it's a bit of both. I think the internet is forcing companies to be so much more tight-lipped. And it's just about working with what the internet is. So yeah, you definitely need to control it at your end if you're Nintendo, I would say.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'd like that. I'd like that because it's not as much fun seeing a leak as it is getting something revealed in a direct.
It's
It's a
true.
bit. It's
Yeah.
not. You need to get that hype train going.
Yes, you do. We're all about that hype train. I think that I would give more power to Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Europe, and not have them as puppets anymore, and let them make their own decisions, and let them kind of do stuff that isn't just barking up the orders of NCL. It's one of the things that frustrates me the most is all these decisions that get made in Japan, and then the hands are tied basically, and Reggie can't do anything, and Shibata can't do anything, and it just feels like they need to give them more control. And I feel like Kimishima is maybe the one who could do that, as someone who was formerly the head of Nintendo of America and who knows maybe what a pain in the ass that is. Trying to get some stuff sorted over there and not being able to because of Japan telling you that this is what we're actually going to do as a company. So
Hmm.
that could be a potential thing. I doubt it's going to happen because Nintendo's run the way it is, and I think they're keeping with kind
I'm
of similar stuff at the moment.
I'm
So
worried our two ideas to some degree go against each other. Like there might be a clash if you give more power to Europe or America, and then as a result, more people might know about NX, for example, and there might be
well, you
more
know what? That's
chance.
fine by me because it means that those branches are actually able to do something. All this stuff
Yeah,
with YouTube and Nintendo's policies and all that nonsense and bullshit. 100% Nintendo in Japan, NCL make those decisions, and I feel like the people in the US are not that happy about it, and they kind of have to just march to the beat of the drum and take it as it is. And I think that
yeah.
had it been the opposite case and they had the power to deal with YouTube and all that stuff, they wouldn't have made the decisions that NCL have made. So,
It'd be interesting to know what the sort of like the YouTube culture with streaming or Let's Plays is like in Japan, because I presume it'd be completely different to the Western world.
yeah, I mean, Japan, they don't really use YouTube. They use a website called Nico Nico, which is where
Mm.
they get a lot of their video stuff. So it is kind of different over there. I'm sure there's some policy that Nintendo has for that website too, but I don't
Hmm.
know. It's a weird thing. It's different. So, yeah.
Look forward to see what he's gonna do.
Yeah, we'll follow this closely as we always do because we talk about Nintendo. So what else are we going to do? To be honest. All right, Bally, let's move on to the next piece of news. This is kind of a big one for Nintendo's holiday lineup. Star Fox Zero has been delayed. It will no longer come out on that Black Friday spot, that Friday before Black Friday, I think, or after. I can't remember. It's like the 21st of November. It is no longer coming out. It will be the first quarter of 2016. This comes from Miyamoto himself, who kind of said that they wanted to polish the game more and have it to be more of a good experience. What are your thoughts here, Bally?
There's a couple of reasons why I'm happy about this. Number one, I'm kind of drowning in games. Like they've come up between games like Splatoon, Mario Maker. I'm kind of getting on top of my backlog. Shovel Knight: Plague of Shadows has just come out. We've got not, I was about to say Ocarina of Time. We've got
You have
Zelda.
Ocarina of
I've
Time.
got Ocarina of Time, but we've got Zelda Triforce Heroes coming. All these games are a lot of
Not
playtime.
to mention the 100-hour Xenoblade Chronicles X at the end of the year.
Yeah, and like I kind of want to start Fire Emblem Awakening as well, and that's going to take a really long time. So for me personally, I'm not kind of itching for new games to play and things to come out. So that's one reason that I'm okay with it.
Uh huh.
Secondly, I think everyone agrees that whether you loved the controls or hated them, um, that there was a really mixed response at E3 to this game, and even as someone like myself who I was quite a fan of the controls, they could definitely have been made better or implemented in some way better. I don't know how they would do that. I don't know if they will do that, but there's a chance that there might be some sort of touch up in some way. Whether that's maybe even adding in an online mode or just having, I don't know, improve the graphics were another contentious point. It's improving the graphics in some way. There's
Yeah.
definitely something that can be done to just make that a better experience. And obviously Miyamoto said, "Well, I'm not releasing it, getting all that criticism that it got at E3 because that would just be a bad move. It'd be unpopular. I don't want to tarnish Star Fox, you know." So he's obviously thought to himself, "Yeah, we're gonna try and fix this," and that's a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, it does seem to be the thing where a lot of people are not very excited for this game at all, and it has received a lot of criticism. So I feel like Nintendo took a look at it and said, if we release this, we're going to get destroyed in reviews. This game is not going to do well. It's probably not going to sell well anyway, just because it's not this A-tier franchise, and usually Star Fox doesn't do that well commercially. So going back to the drawing board a little bit, polishing it up, making it so that those controls are a bit more intuitive and easy to use and easy to understand. It hopefully results in a better experience, a better game, and as a result, kind of better sales for Nintendo. Because I think a lot of people are kind of waiting on what people say regarding, how good Star Fox is before they pick it up. And I think that's kind of a key factor in what will happen. But I think the other big point here is this is like the first time in a very long time that Nintendo have basically skipped out on their Black Friday or pre-Black Friday release, and they have nothing in that window, which is like, that's where their big games usually go. It's where their big hitters happen. Do you think this is going to affect them in some way, Bally?
I do think it's a bad precedent to set, this idea that you won't have anything in that Black Friday slot. And now I'm not a Nintendo fanboy, let's be honest, but I mean a lot of other Nintendo fanboys have sort of said, "Well, look, Sony don't have any first-party stuff coming out this holiday season."
Right.
And that's a valid point, but I mean Nintendo
But here's the thing: Sony have Destiny the Taken King,
precisely,
Sony have Fallout 4, Sony have
exactly.
these big marquee third-party titles, none of which Nintendo have.
Precisely.
So,
And it's almost like when the console is sold so badly in the way it has done with the Wii U, like you can't really do much worse, so it probably doesn't make a massive difference, to be honest. And like we've already said, Star Fox isn't a big seller, and something like Mario Maker is surely going to sell so much better. Maybe even Triforce Heroes is going to sell much better because that Zelda, that's on the handheld, and
much bigger install base on 3DS.
true,
So,
and like we're much more hyped about that game from
yeah.
playing it as well. So I don't think it's a good precedent to set, like I said, but I don't think it's the end of the world as long as they can remedy it for make if as long as like every year the NX is out, they have a big holiday slot, then they're fine. But the Wii U's dead.
I actually think that this is the best situation possible because number one, I wasn't excited for Star Fox. I was kind of actually on the edge of thinking like maybe I'm not going to pick this up. Like I need to play Star Fox 64, which you've lent to me, and
Yeah, it gives you a chance to give that a go, I guess.
yeah, exactly, kind of give me some breathing room there. So that's one thing. Like I wasn't super excited for it, and also Star Fox does not sell. Like there is it's not a big title. If you're not a Nintendo fan, you don't know what Star Fox is, you don't care what Star Fox is. Nintendo have the tools already in terms of software to do a big holiday push, especially with Splatoon and Mario Maker. Both of those games are kind of universal, and a lot of people are interested in them. They have great buzz around them, and positioning bundles and things that, bring those to the forefront. The real holiday titles are kind of the ones that they've been pushing all year, and I think no matter what, like those were going to do better for Nintendo than Star Fox ever would. So it's not like it disappearing from the lineup makes a big difference to their sales. Their sales aren't great anyway, and they're not really going up anytime soon. So yeah, it's
Are
it's probably a good idea to
are we
get
still
rid of it.
100% confident, or do we know this that it is going to still be on Wii U and not just pushed back to NX?
Oh no, it's a Wii U game. Absolutely a Wii U game. They said quarter one of 2016. If it skips that, then I think we start to speculate. But for the time being, it seems like it's basically done. Aside from the stuff they have to polish up and fix. So yeah, I have no fears of this, shifting over to another platform. It's gonna stay, in my opinion. So. Yeah, so Star Fox, don't have to worry about playing that this year, but we do have to worry about playing Pikmin 4 at some point in the very near future. This was the weirdest announcement and the weirdest timing that I have ever seen for any Nintendo thing in my life. So one day I go on Twitter and everyone's like, Pikmin 4, and I'm like, what the fuck? When did that happen? Why? How?
It was
Where?
a proper Twitter announcement, this one.
Yeah, so Eurogamer did an interview with Miyamoto around July. I believe it was because he was doing a press tour for Yoshi's Woolly World, which came out there around that time, and he told them that Pikmin 4 was a game, it was in development, and it was almost done. Eurogamer then sat on this news for a good, 2 months, and out of nowhere, in September, drop it, and everyone's like, what? Okay, that's kind of crazy. But if you step back and think about it, makes a lot of sense. They had that patch a while ago for Pikmin 3 where they added those touch controls, and everyone was questioning, like, why are you doing this, Nintendo? Like, this game came out ages ago. There's no more DLC for it, so there's no reason for people to, go back to it anytime soon. Why would you patch in this weird option? Which kind of makes this much more understandable now, because it must be like when they're in development on Pikmin 4, they're like, oh, this is a cool thing we can add for this new game. How about we just patch it into the old one? Which is like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And that engine is done. That engine is ready to go, so they can just use it again and add some new ideas. This could very well be like a Mario Galaxy 2 situation where they had ideas for Pikmin 3 that they would have loved to get in there, but didn't have the time or means or whatever to do them. And now they can kind of do that stuff and make it more interesting. Bally, you're the Pikmin guy here. Are you excited for this? Do you think it's going to be a Wii U game? Are you thinking this will be
Very.
one of the last Wii U games?
Yes, I think it will be one of the last Wii U games, and it's kind of almost starting to hint that the NX won't be next year. Like now,
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, imagine if like Star Fox is delayed. This could come out Q2 maybe next year. Who knows? Might be earlier. And then potentially Zelda for that holiday title next year. Like this might be like them kind of saying, yes, the Wii U does need one more solid year. We're gonna go for that. And obviously the NX will still get announced next E3, but they'll say this is the Wii U's final year. But Pikmin 4, I am pumped. I absolutely loved Pikmin 3. One of the few games I've absolutely loved on this podcast, the most probably top five, I'd say, to be honest, the amount I've talked about it.
Yeah.
Um, it's like when you compare it, the gap between like 1 and 2, and then the massive gap between Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3, I was confident that Pikmin 4 wouldn't be coming out for a good 3 years or something at least.
Yeah.
So the idea that there's like a quick 2 year turnaround, I think that's about what it's been. So
Yeah, about that.
that's
Seems
really
like it.
positive, and I love the idea of solid engine, come up with some new areas, come up with some new ideas for Pikmin. I'd love that, and I think lots of Pikmin 3 fans would love that. And people who haven't played Pikmin 3 will, I hope they make it accessible for them as well. In the same way that I think, like you said, Galaxy 1 and 2 were just such great games that didn't feel like they were repeating too much. They were still, Galaxy 2 still felt really fresh, and I hope they can
Yeah.
still come up with enough stuff to make Pikmin feel really fresh, because I think every Pikmin game has felt pretty fresh so far. So I'd like to see them continue that trend. And I've lent you Pikmin 3.
Yes, you have let me Pikmin 3, so I will be playing that in the very near future, and it's great, I guess, because now I'm kind of being prepped for the new game so that I can play this.
Star Fox and Pikmin 3.
Yeah, exactly. That's your. It seems like your psychic value is like you give me these two games, and it's like now I have the time to play both of them before kind of their sequels in many ways come out. So interesting stuff. But it does seem that Nintendo are pushing Pikmin much more. They had the short movies, which were very interesting, and a lot of focus on that. Do you think that their focus, as they said at E3, are trying to branch out into new media for all this stuff and building their franchise and IPs and having less breaks in between them is being evidenced here with Pikmin 4?
Yeah, it's obviously they wanted to make sure, uneasy Pikmin fans like me were like not too worried that there would be a too big of a gap. They're obviously really keen to, keep the Pikmin universe going, and it's a pretty cool universe. And it's a series that really looks a whole lot better in HD. And obviously Nintendo agree because they want to make another one. And I just think that the improvements they made between Pikmin 2 and 3 were such a nice big jump that to make another game in the Pikmin 3 engine makes perfect sense. It's nice to see them giving the Pikmin some love.
Yeah, and I feel like they need some more software for Wii U for the next year or so, and being able to just sequelize and do that makes a whole lot of sense. Instead of building something brand new from the ground up, let's just do another Pikmin. And the Wii U isn't the most popular system in the world, but the people who own it are the kind of people who care about a franchise like Pikmin, right? So,
And I feel like even though a lot of people didn't maybe buy Pikmin 3, they've all played it because it was one of the games on offer with the Mario Kart 8.
right, yes,
And
yeah.
also, I believe it was like a North American Club Nintendo award or something for the end of year. So I do feel there are slightly more people who have played this game than the sales figures might suggest.
Yeah, no, that's true. It was given away with quite a few of those things. So exciting stuff, interesting. I don't know how long it'll be before that comes out, but I'm sure we'll hear more about it soon, and they may even show some of it off in a new Nintendo Direct whenever that happens. So we will see. The last piece of news here, Bali. Pretty crazy one. Pokemon is going everywhere. It's going under the bus. It's going in your home. It's going wherever the hell you can find on the planet Earth because
It's going
there is an
across the road to get run over.
yeah, apparently so. Pokemon Go is an app, a game, I guess, which is being developed by a company called Niantic, I believe, who used to be a part of Google, and they made a game called. Oh fuck, I can't remember the name now. But they made a game that was like virtual
Was it
reality.
the guy who was on NVC?
Um, no, I don't think
Okay,
so.
never mind.
No, 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 no. No, the guy who was on NVC was just an engineer who worked at IGN. He
Okay,
just knew about it. So, Ingress. It's called Ingress. There,
impress.
got into my brain. Yeah, I said virtual reality. I meant augmented
Augmented,
reality,
yes.
which basically used your camera on your phone and the real world outside to create some stuff in augmented reality, and you did stuff. I don't know the full details of Ingress and how it works, but Pokemon Go is supposed to be you go out there, you use your phone, and Pokemon will appear in the world before you, and you can catch them, and you can trade them with your friends, and there seems to be a cult in the middle of New York City who are all trying to defeat Mewtwo at the same time, and maybe that will happen in reality, and that is when we know the apocalypse has come, Bally. That is it.
Yes, I that trailer. So I saw a number of tweets saying, "Oh, you gotta check out the trailer. This game's gonna be so cool." I'm like, "All right, let's see this lame ass trailer. Whatever, let's see it." And then I watched the trailer. I was like, "Wow, that was a really impressive trailer." Because I feel like, first of all, the budget seemed absolutely massive on that trailer. Secondly, I feel like someone who knows nothing about Pokemon, who's obviously quite an artistic sort of director, they've been sat down in a chair by Game Freak or the Pokemon Company or whoever, and they said, right, here are the first 151 Pokemon. We want you to make the most epic trailer using these Pokemon. And they didn't tell him like about all the other Pokemon, and they didn't tell them like who it was aimed at. They just said go, and you have to appeal to as many people as possible. And I just feel like the trailer was so epic. It was like a proper film. It was just so over the top. And the funniest thing is it shows almost no gameplay. I believe there was like a single screen or something. And
Yeah,
the fact that it is only the first 151 Pokemon, I think says a lot. I think it says that, they're trying to aim this product at this game at everyone. And because the first generation came out when we were like much younger, and I
yeah.
feel there will be some people our age who are like, that looks kind of cool, and it's only like a free download initially on my phone, so I might as well give it a go. And I just thought, given the brief of what the game was, that trailer couldn't have done it any better, really.
Yeah, I think we differ here. I thought the trailer was fucking lame. I didn't like it at all. I thought, like,
Really?
okay, yeah, I did. Like,
Well, it's not aimed
okay.
at you though.
I mean, yeah, it kind of is because they're trying to. You say it's aimed at everyone, but where was a kid under the age of 12 in that trailer? nowhere to be seen. 100% this is being aimed at...
But do kids under the age of 12 have smartphones?
Right, that's what I'm saying, is 100% this is being aimed at the early 20s market. Every person in that trailer was in their early 20s, and they all have smartphones, and they all have nostalgia for the original 151 Pokemon, which is what they are targeting with this stuff. And I don't know, for me it just didn't do anything, probably because I'm just so fucking burned out on Pokemon, it's unreal. So anything to do with Pokemon, just like the biggest of mares crosses my brain. So probably I'm a bad case to kind of, put this up against. But I mean, it just looked like fucking crazy people. That whole thing in Times Square was like, who is gonna do this? This seems like the most ridiculously stupid thing in history. I don't know.
It seemed mad in a really cool way, though. It was like, we want to make the world of Pokemon real, and like that was always the thing when I was growing up playing Pokemon. It was like, it'd be so cool if the world of Pokemon was real, and then
man, yeah, it would be cool if it was real, but this isn't real. This is fucking things on your phone. Like, I get what they're trying to do, but it just isn't doing anything for me, unfortunately.
But I mean, if there was such thing as a live action Pokemon film, I feel like that trailer was going along the right lines to make one.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
And I think linking the two, obviously the game might be complete pile of garbage, and it was just obviously a really cool trailer. And that's a similar mold to these other free-to-play games that have these amazing huge budget trailers, and then once you actually play the games, they're absolutely terrible. So
let's hire Kate. What's her name for Game of War? Kate Upton, I guess.
Upton.
Yeah, let's hire her for all these Game of War adverts. Go and play Game of War.
She can go catch Mewtwo. That would sell some Pokemons.
Oh, I'm sure it would.
It
yeah,
would.
But you look at that fucking game, and it is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, watching that Giant Bomb Quick Look where Drew was like, yeah, this is Game of War, and then Jeff is like, this is fucking bollocks. Like, this whole thing is bullshit from top to bottom.
And I don't think that, Nintendo and that maybe even Pokemon have that much cachet in the UK, perhaps, and maybe even wider in Europe. But I think America will love that game. I think there's the potential that this could be pretty special, especially if you stick an advert like that on TV. People will lap that up.
If they get the marketing department in shape on that stuff, they will do pretty well.
So I think it's exciting times. I'm like you. I'm not overly hyped to actually download it or buy it. Who knows when it comes out? I might give it a go. We'll see. I mean,
well, it's going to be free, Bally, so you might as well download it and see what it is.
Give it a go. It will obviously, using the camera and the GPS in one fell swoop, it'll kill your phone.
Yes,
so
it will.
That'll be interesting. But it's the times of change.
And you can buy a tacky watch if you like to go along with it.
Oh, that thing was horrible. That is just, I can't.
That's where they're positioning the kids market. It's like they're going after the 20-somethings with that stuff, but for the kids who are probably going to be using their parents' iPad to play this game.
Precisely.
Hey, you can have the watch.
You can have the watch. Precisely.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense that they are kind of trying to target a wide net here.
This could be the start of something big.
It could be.
Definitely.
It could be. So, anyway, that's the big news. May have been some other tiny little things, but those are the things that we wanted to focus on. A lot of stuff happened in the world of Nintendo, Bally. As you said, like, Nintendo Direct feels like it should have happened at some point, and it didn't. So, we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Hopefully something will come along soon. But for now, that is pretty much going to wrap up our show. Thank you so much for listening. We love when you listen, because otherwise, what's the point of doing a podcast, It's like, if someone makes a podcast and no one listens, does the podcast even exist at all? That's the question. I don't think it does, Bally.
No, it's just a Skype call between us.
It's just a Skype call. It's just a conversation.
It's just a conversation.
A very organised conversation. That's what podcasts are. They're just very organised conversations.
We could live our life in segments.
We could. I'd live my life in segments, just blitzing from one to the next. Oh boy. Anyway, that's gonna be us. Bally, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me on the Twitters at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91. That is also my name on the Miiverse. I will be posting everything from Zelda Ocarina of Time, Mario Maker. I'm probably going to get on with a bit of Shovel Knight Plague of Shadows. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Plague of Shadows? Yeah, so
Yes.
check out those Miiverse posts.
Go play Mario Maker stages that we make. I guess the easiest way for you guys to find that is to go to our Miiverse profiles.
Definitely.
Instead of having to tell you a fucking 16-digit number, we can instead point you towards those. So do pay attention to our Miiverses. Bally is Ballyman91, as he just said. My Miiverse is Lordnbz. I have like 6 stages on Mario Maker. So go play my stages. Tell me what you think. And let me know. It'd be good
And
to
I've got
hear.
one very good one.
Yeah, Bally has one stage he spent literally hours on, and
So you better like it.
yeah, well, I'm sure you'll get a lot of good stuff on that as well. You can find our podcast Twitter. It's at TNL Podcast. That is where you can go and see all the stuff we do. I've been doing some Mario Maker videos, and I actually haven't tweeted them from that account, but that sort of stuff will be put on that account in the future. So if you want to see videos and the like that Bally and I make, or just I make, then the Twitter is a good place to follow. And yeah, we got emails, Bally. What do people do with emails?
They have to write them and send them to us.
Oh, okay. How do they
and
do that?
They go on their computers,
Mhm.
they compose a message, and they
Yes.
send it to the address, which is thisnintendolife@gmail.com.
Yes. Keep sending your emails in. We love hearing from you. It's always good stuff. Yeah, you can find us on many places. On iTunes, we're on Stitcher. You can download us. You can rate us, review us. You can do all the good things. Use podcast apps. We're in places. We're on the internet. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere. We exist within the ether.
And make sure you listen to next episode, because it's going to be a special one. It's the big 5-0.
It's a number 50. Don't know what we're doing yet. We're going to have to figure that out. But prepare yourselves, because it will be exciting time.
Our top 50 Zelda dungeons.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole show. That's all we're going to do. Are there 50s? Probably. There
Yeah,
probably
there's
are.
easily 50. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, we should do that. That's a great idea. Not. Oh, boy. Maybe I'll do a video on that one day. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to be us for the show. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back at you in a couple of weeks' time. But until then, have a good one. Goodbye. The musical interludes used in today's show were a jazz version of the main theme from Super Mario World, copyright Nintendo 1990, and Showdown from Codename Steam, copyright Intelligent Systems 2015.
But I think I'm going to sneeze. Am I going to sneeze? Am I going to sneeze? No, I'm not going to sneeze. Let's think about it.
Sneeze, damn it!
Tip of my nose. I can't think when there's a sneeze coming. Everything involved with the franchise so far seems to always produce difficult levels, but this should not be what everything. Oh God, that sentence, that level. God damn it! Right.
That sentence is a level that you have to master.
Okay, let me just start the sentence again.
Jump over the H, Bally. Jump over the H. Theory that you could throw it onto the not the eShop.
iShop.
The iShop.
The Apple copy Nintendo. Let's make the iShop, the iPencil,
the iPencil, the iShop,
the iStylus,
the iStylus. God, we're just okay.
the iWii U.
All right.